Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. So here's another neighbor story for you guys. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Guy tries to sell house from under my family, gets his just desserts. My family was looking for a large house and found the perfect one back in the early 2000s. When my dad talked with the owners, they had agreed to getting some plumbing fixed on the house before we moved in if we moved all their stuff into the two-car garage so it'd be easier for them to move. There was also several things to be repaired, a pool to clean and a ton of landscaping to be done. My dad did the repairs and used his army of offspring to do all the landscaping, pool work, etc. The house was looking amazing compared to before, and we were a week from moving in. Now, I, to this day, do not know why my dad did this, but he had paid a cash deposit. There was no paper trail, and the owners decided to take advantage of this. When it got to be a few days before we moved in, the owners told my dad they weren't moving their stuff out of the garage or doing the plumbing fixes that were needed to use any of the bathtubs or showers in the house. He could deal with no garage and pay for the plumbing fixes, or he could F off. No refund of deposit if he didn't like it. They even said they were thinking of moving someone else in because the house value was more with all the fixes we'd already done. My father asked to turn in the keys we had been given the next morning because this was all told to him at 8 p.m. on a weekday. With no paperwork yet signed, there was nothing attaching my dad to the house and no cameras or security system. He'd just been effed over a few $1,000s by the owner, and it was maybe 2 weeks to Christmas. His gift that year was going to be giving each of us kids our own rooms for the first time. Cue revenge. He brought all of us kids over to the house for a little party. Each kid was given their own special bit of destruction. Someone was shoveling sand into the pool. My brother, with anger issues, was told to punch out every hole we'd patched up in the walls. The smaller kids were told to rock the banister on the stairs until it broke. I was told to rip out the landscaping we'd done out and made a path of it all over the stairs. Every single thing we'd fixed or improved taken back by very creative and energetic children. While all this happened, my dad and stepmom went through everything in the garage from the owners and took anything they could gift to family, pawn, or sell. There were high-value collectibles, jewelry, and a computer that my dad gave us for Christmas. The next day, my dad told the owners he had put the keys in the garage with its door open that night for them. He then unplugged the phone, and we never heard from those people again. Was it legal? No. Not on either end. Did we have a good Christmas? Yes. Was it fun destroying the place? Yes, I actually did a very tastefully done carpet of hedge branches, torn out flowers, and some or of sand and pool gravel on the actual carpet of the house. And our next story. Here's your reports. I work at an IT firm, and one of my tasks is doing technical analysis and preparing the report for our monthly reviews. The head of our department is an interesting character. Let's call him Paul. Now, this guy's unbelievably incompetent, and I'm assuming that the only reason why he got to where he is right now is by abusing his position and grabbing the credit for everything he could get his hands on. On top of that, Paul is fond of pointing fingers when something goes wrong. He avoids accountability like it's the plague. He drove out several of my reliable colleagues because of his habit of throwing people under the bus. One day, the clients were fed up with all the excuses that he's been giving and wanted raw data to back up the bullcrap coming out of Paul's mouth. Now, Paul is crap at Excel. He uses it like a glorified notepad. Now he comes to me and made me do his reports outside of my responsibility. He was asking me to pull up 3 years' worth of data and do some analysis on it. He wanted it by the end of the day. Clients asked a week before and he slept on it. Now, I know that if I won't be able to do it, he'll find a way to throw me under the bus and again avoid accountability. I took this opportunity to force Paul to actually work. I downloaded the data, made some pivots and charts and a couple of one-liners that he could use for his reports. I did what he asked me to. Now remember, the clients asked Paul for raw data, not just the reports. He never mentioned it in his email to me. Since the meeting will be happening first thing tomorrow and he asked me to get it to him by the end of the day, I sent it to him at the last minute, right before I went home. Now, what I sent him is what he asked me for. I sent him graphs, charts, the raw data dump, without the additional columns I've added needed for the pivot. and a separate JPEG image of the pivot table. I gave him what he needed and went home. Now, I know he'd be trying to contact me during the evening to ask for my help since he doesn't know crap. I made sure I was unreachable for the remainder of the day. The next day, I also made sure that I get into the conference room right when the meeting was about to start. The clients were furious with his presentation and grilled him on that JPEG pivot. They asked him to do his analysis right then and there, and nobody was surprised he couldn't do it. They proceeded to mock Paul for his incompetence and started to realize that he's absolutely useless. They've escalated it to our senior management, and Paul's now looking for a different job. Well played. Very well played. Give them just enough rope to hang themselves. And our next story. Want to undercut me on a job by doing shady and poor work? Fine. Just wait and see. I was an observer in this whole affair. Company A did fencing, walls, barriers, etc. Company A was run by Bob. Bob was a real upstanding guy. Took over the business from his father and really grew it into something big. Bob had an employee, Jake. Jake had been with Company A for quite a few years, but Bob and Jake always rubbed off on each other in the wrong way. Bob always felt like Jake was the king of shortcuts and shoddy workmanship. When Bob took over the company from his dad, Bob applied more pressure on Jake to bring up the quality of his work or be let go. Eventually, Jake got tired and quit. Formed his own fencing company called Company B. Here's where I come in. I started a job in a company providing business services to small and medium-sized businesses in the area, and both Company A and Company B became my clients. This was several years after Company B had formed. From my outside viewpoint, Company A was that local company that's been around forever that does good quality work that you can trust, but they aren't going cheap. They never try to be cheap, but you can trust them. Company B was the young startup who was cutting corners and being competitive in every way possible, often by lying or misleading its customers. That's when Company C comes in. Company C was building a production facility in the area and wanted a wall with gates around its new production facility. This was going to be a big contract, and really the only two players in the area that could possibly do this job was Company A or Company B. This contract was worth a lot. If memory serves me correctly, the job was somewhere near 7 figures. Company A and Company B went to go bid. Company B came in at like a 30% lower price point, and even though Bob tried to explain it wasn't possible for Company B to do the work that was promised at the price point that was given, of course money talks, and Company B got the contract. I remember Bob was furious. In his eyes, he felt what Jake was doing was wrong. He didn't mind fair competition, but Jake's MO had always been way underbid, overpromise, rely on cost overruns to make a profit. Bob's opinion on business was a price is a price, and if he says he's going to do X for Y, he's going to do X for Y, even if he loses money. It's how he was raised. Some time goes by, and Bob gets a call from Company C. They've apparently fired Jake and his company due to not being able to do the work required, and ask Bob if he can come in and fix the mistakes. Bob agrees and gets the job done. At this point, Bob starts thinking he's got to take Jake out. Jake is taking too much money out of his pocket. Bob comes up with the idea of buying Jake out, but Bob knows if he approaches Jake, regardless of what he offers to pay, Jake is going to say no. So Bob's got to be smart. Bob's talking to me about this during one of our meetings. We'd become quite close. I tell Bob, I bet there are lawyers out there who specialize in helping other companies acquire other companies. Bob asked me if I know of any. I don't, but I did have a client who specialized in business law and would be more familiar with this whole thing. I give Bob his contact info and Bob thanks me. Bob contacts the lawyer and tells the lawyer what he'd like to do. The lawyer tells Bob a lawyer who used to work for him now works for a firm that specializes in mergers and acquisitions, and if Bob wanted to buy out Jake's company, he's confident this firm could get it done. Also, this firm was in the big city far away from their small community, so it's unlikely Jake would know what's truly going on. Bob contacts the firm and says he wants to buy out his competitor and would like to enlist their services. Now this is already getting a bit longer, so I'll get to the point. The firm ended up buying Jake's company, lock, stock, and barrel, and gave the company to Bob. All the while, Jake was completely oblivious to the fact that his archenemy has just acquired his very own company. I recall Bob describing to me the day he walked into Jake's company with such delight. Bob was told he owned the company. Jake had been paid and was expecting to meet the new owner of the company that pleasant Monday morning. Jake was given the title of general manager and was considered second in command now. So Bob walked into the building that once belonged to Jake with his documents and the lawyer that had helped him acquire the firm, who Jake was familiar with. Bob walked into Jake's office. To Jake's surprise, Jake. Hi, Bob. Bob. Hi, Jake. How are you? Jake. I'm good. What are you doing here? Bob. Oh, nothing much. Just thought I'd come check out my newly acquired business. Jake. Bob. Jake, you sold your company to me. Jake. I did what? No, I didn't. I sold it to XYZ. Bob. XYZ is the law firm I hired to organize the transaction. I'm now the owner. Jake. That's bullcrap. Bob. Here's the documents. Lawyer who Jake was familiar with confirmed this was all true. Jake. So you're now my boss? Bob. Yes. Now get up. That's my chair, and I'm tired. I want to sit down for a minute. Jake. This is my office. Bob. This is my company, and I've decided that this office is now my office, so I'm going to need you to get out of my chair. Jake gets out of the chair. Bob. Great. Well, have a sit, Jake. Jake. Thanks. Bob. Jake, I think the first order of business today is getting rid of redundancies. Jake. What do you mean? Bob. Well, you see, Jake, whenever a company acquires another company, you get overlap, redundancies. 2 HR departments, 2 secretaries, 2 accountants, etc. But now it's all one company. So now you got redundancies, overlaps, which is quite frankly a waste of money. Jake. Yeah. Bob. And I don't think I need 2 owners working for one company. He laughs as he tells me he had the biggest crap-eating grin on his face. Jake, it's become apparent that your services are no longer required, and effective immediately, you're terminated. Jake protested. Bob, the decision is final. You can collect your personal belongings and leave the premises. What time did you get to work this morning? 7 a.m., Jake says. Bob, great. So you've been here for 2 hours. I'll make sure payroll pays you out for 2 hours on the new agreed-upon rate in the buyout agreement. Have a nice day. Jake, so you're firing me just like that? Bob, yup, should have done this long ago. Jake, what about my family? Bob, Jake, I just bought your company from you and paid you a lot of money. You'll be fine. Now get out of my office and out of my building. And that is how Bob acquired and fired an employee he should have fired long before. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.